Hi, everybody. I've got like a new setup as always, and yeah, press live. Hi, good to see you. What Up Wednesday? Welcome. As usual, chaos has ensued. I hope you guys are having a fantastic Wednesday. I hope that some of you got to catch at least some of the Pro League action that returned today. The shootout between Germany and Belgium men just finished. I wasn't watching it because I had to get ready for this and I had to get lights set up and blah, blah, blah. So don't tell me what happened. I'm just kidding. You can tell me what happened. I'm only interested in the umpiring anyway. So that is always the case. I am shifting around some boxes and such. So if you are on board, say hi. Let me know. Today on What Up Wednesday, we are going to talk about the following two topics. We are going to talk about how in the world can people tackle properly with 3D skills. We are also going to talk about how to deal with confrontations and overcrowding in particular. So overcrowding, crowding particular in general. Doesn't have to be overcrowding. Any crowding's bad. We're going to talk about that today as well. And we are going to get to those two topics and those two topics alone, because I am setting my bar low. And we are going to go under an hour and it's going to be awesome. So I'm really glad you all joined in. Hey, Whit's here. Good to see you. How many of you have returned to hockey and have had a chance to go out and blow your whistles over the last couple weekends? Tell me how that went before we get started, because I'm deeply envious and very curious as to how you've managed with COVID restrictions and safety protocols and how the players have reacted and how that's affected what you're doing on the pitch. I might not be able to see everything that you say now, but it'd be really nice to hear from you guys in that respect as well. Graham, good to see you. I'm glad you're here because I am going to get to your question this week. I didn't promise it, but I'm over-delivering. That's what I'm doing today. Good to see you, Nick. As always, Vino, very warm welcome to you. Jan Decker from Holland is here. Hi, Jan. Lovely to see you. The Zed's here. Wonderful. Jade, I've had a visit from a makeup artist. Sir, I make up my face like this every week. And if you haven't been noticing, maybe I didn't do it very well. Oh, it's amazing to be 48 years old and to be learning how to do makeup for the first time. That's kind of my life right now. Quite incredible. Let's see, Nick, you've been up. You've had 2 matches last Saturday. Hi, Simon. Yes, this is a slightly different side to the room, just a different angle. Jade knows this. Again, we sat and had a conversation on that sofa one day so long ago. I think it's another lifetime. I'm going to keep moving around and trying out different layouts also for visual interest, because you guys are going to get super bored if you see the same thing every week. And I don't have that many clothes. So that's how I'm going to mix things up. Simon, yes, you had a couple games and coaching sessions as well. Still worried about social distancing. Okay. Wit, let's see. Have you seen the shit show that is the US? Yes, I have. I know. Alistair, wonderful to see you again. And that's okay, Zed. I know you're working, so it's all good. Bren, hey, good to see you from all the way from Australia. I haven't seen you for a little while, so thanks for coming back. Gary, Nick, what do you got for me? Distancing, dugouts, warm-ups, PC huddles, but not as difficult as I thought it would be. So you're saying that the challenges are in keeping the dugouts distanced and the warm-ups and the penalty corner huddles. Good to know. Hi, Paul. Nice to see you as well. Thanks for all the conversations we've been having over DM. It's been very useful for me. Graham, you've umpired several games already. COVID has been taken very seriously with no issues being identified. Hello, Marvo. The positioning has been working very well. Good. I'm going to talk about the new workshop series a little bit later when I do my in-betweener plug, as I'm now calling it. Mike, thank you. That was very, I don't know what that rude Mr. Bloomfield was on about either. He's just very rude. and a nice painting. Which way is my left? My left is this way. That left is that way. So, sorry, did I not say Australia, Bren? Look, honestly, I don't even know the words that are coming out of my mouth. So, there you go. Liking the artwork. You know what? This Picasso poster print that you can see my lighting reflection in. I'm actually going to get rid of that because I watched Hannah Gadsby's Nanette, so it's got to go. But this one over here is a canvas of Montreal abstract artist named Sylvie Cotieux, if I'm pronouncing that properly. And yeah, I really like her work. So Google her, look her up. She's got good stuff. Rachel, you umpired a friendly at a higher level than usual. Went well. At least they didn't notice your rustiness. Players created a decision led to a goal, made you doubt yourself, but you checked in at halftime with your colleague and you were correct. Yeah. Confidence restored, no radios. Colleague didn't want them, so couldn't check as we went. Yeah, that's interesting. That's very, it's always a challenge when you're prepared to communicate with radios and give that a shot. And given it was a friendly, that would have been a really nice opportunity for your colleague to experiment. But if they weren't ready, they weren't ready. But hopefully that's a direction, you might be able to support them in going into the future. And let's see, Robert, what up, Umps? Yeah, things have been crazy, but I'm here, and hopefully I am sufficiently prepared for what should be a great discussion of our two topics, 3D skills and dealing with confrontations. So let's get into the meat of it. It's going to be really, really fun. Okay, let me make sure I can split my screens and go to our first question. Of course I'm messing up. That's very interesting. My iPad split isn't coming up yet, so I'm going to do this. How about that? Okay. I'm looking up because I'm trying my TV as a secondary monitor, and I don't like it. I'm already looking up too much. Very, very hard. Okay, let's talk about 3D tackle. So here's Maddie goes, Goff, sorry. I remember that, Goff's question here. Let's talk about 3D skills and how to tackling it, as it were. If that makes sense, with 3D skills being more and more common, to be interesting to see when it's okay, when it becomes dangerous, and how we expect defenders to defend against it legally, and examples of people defending it both well and poorly. As an ex-player, is becoming more and more challenging to manage this new skill, and let's have a discussion on this. So I don't know how much of a hot button this is for a lot of you, depending on your level of play, but we do see this, I think, more and more in the lower levels. Juniors are trying it out. They're very open to the newfangled new skills, which is really fun to see. They're watching self-pass videos. They're seeing all this cool stuff that can be done and all the creativity of the players at the top levels, and they're bringing it down. And I hear this all the time, and I'm sure you hear it as well, that coaches are wondering, well, is a defender ever going to be able to tackle successfully in the air? It's impossible. As soon as they go up to air, it's not fair, and they're going to get called for a stick obstruction every time. So what are we supposed to do about it? You umpires have to call that down as dangerous, because essentially it's unfair, which is not why we ever call danger. We call danger because it's dangerous, not because it's unfair. Hot tip, just came up with that on the fly. Hi, Simon. So when I think it took us a long time to process how these skills were developing, and there has been a big lag between the attacking side of it, which was super fun to practice and to train and to learn how to do, and the development of the defending skills on the other side of it. Not as much fun to do, and quite a bit frustrating. Now, for those of you who may have been playing as long as I have, I've been playing a while, just a hot minute. And I learned how to play on grass. You may have as well. And remember when we made that transition from how we defended on grass, which was very upright because the ball could bobble at any moment. And the lateral control of the ball was not as silky. It wasn't as dangerous. It wasn't as smooth. So we could leave off the low space to the ground a little bit more. That was the compromise we made in order to have a nice upright stick, so that when the ball bounced right at the last minute and came up towards us, that we would be able to trap it or to make that tackle. And then, for me at least, in the evolution of my playing career, we then went to Astro, and we were instructed, a lot of us, to have very low sticks to tackle like we were playing indoor. And as somebody who's played a lot of indoor in their world as well, that was a pretty easy switch in a way. But I think what we forgot was that we can tackle like that on AstroTurf too. So let's keep that in mind as we start looking at some of the 3D skills videos that I have. And let's
yet to get a clear sight to goal so far,
okay.
Has Mary.
So this was a video that I put up, I think it was a Feature Friday, just a little while ago. And let me mute this because that's a little bit loud. You guys probably couldn't hear me through that. But the one thing that's interesting that I want to point out in this particular situation about this video that I am attempting to replay for you is watch what the defender does with her stick as the player comes towards her. Now, it's quite easy because the attacker does come at her, but instead of doing what we often see, which is that horizontal stick, and players, because that's the position in which we're comfortable when we're sort of standing up. That's how we stand. We don't stand like this and run around and mark our player and that sort of thing. We look very, very dorky. So the comfort position is horizontal, parallel to the ground. And so when the ball comes up, players tend to lift up into exactly that position, and now they are swiping like this across the ball. They're very likely to catch stick at that point. And that's one of the things that I look for when I'm umpiring, is I look for that stick to end up swinging like that, just like I would if the ball was on the ground. The other thing that you look for with the 3D skills is you look at whether the defender is needing to, is moving into the ball as it's going, or is the ball being brought towards them? And if it's being brought towards them and they're in a nice stable position, that play is much more likely to be dangerous, like I pointed out in that Feature Friday. And that's very similar to how we should be watching for tackles, which are made on the ground. I'm going to sense a little theme coming out of this. Let me move this window out of the way. Okay. The swing of the stick is a big one. And so what I'm wondering, and I don't know if any of you out there are also coaching as well as umpiring or playing, and you are gaining some experience and trying some different things with this, but I think that as you think about the physics of an attacker who is bouncing the ball like this, and I'm sorry, I'm going to look really awkward as I lift my hands up in the air as a pantomime, but if they are bouncing the air vertically in front of them, do you think the best idea is to try to pick it out at some level in that plane and swipe across, or do you think perhaps blocking might be the better option? If I see a defender, and when I'm trying to process a tackle, my focus always shifts to the defender, because that is the way in which I'm going to be able to determine accurately whether they are causing the obstruction or not. If I watch the ball carrier, I'm going to be beguiled by the fancy stuff they're doing, and I'm going to hear noise, and I'm just going to react incorrectly. So I'm watching the defender, and if their stick is in that vertical position along where the ball is likely moving on that y-axis, that vertical plane, if there's any form of stick noise or collision, who's causing that at that point? I think you can all sort of guess that, well, it's much more likely going to be the attacker in that situation. And again, it's just like watching the defender who has a nice semi-stationary block tackle posture rather than the one who's swinging. So we don't want the defender swinging across when the ball's on the ground, and it's not very productive when they do it in the air either. So I find it interesting that, you know, we haven't caught up yet with those skills, but I think the better coaches are starting to figure this out, and they're passing this on to their players, and the players are figuring it out. It's just taking a little bit of time. So let's see. Let's look at another clip.
Circle.
So I can show this off. This one's a little interesting because it's really small. But again, it's an example of when the defender comes across the ball rather than vertically. Now this is a beautiful little piece of balance. Here it comes. Now when you watch the replay, you'll watch the defender's stick moves towards, and he swipes where the ball was, not where the ball's going. The ball's just dropping straight down. If that defender just kept their stick vertical, they would have had a shot at nailing it.
Cancelling each other out at the moment.
And then you always have the examples.
I'd find
so this one's a little louder as well, where I think really the foul here was the foot, despite the motion that Lorraine's giving here. But when the defender comes over to try to make this tackle, and in order to play it back, I need to get to the original screen, and I don't have it on me. It's being hidden for me. There we go. Now I can drag it back. So you can see the defender's already out of position. So just like if the ball were on the ground, this is exactly the same process that you'd go through. You would look and say, oh, they're in a tough position, high risk, high reward. If they manage to pull this ball out cleanly, great. But there's probably one stick out tackle there, and then he comes down over the ball and ends up with a stick obstruction. So what we're looking for is a stick that doesn't swing, and it's so hard for them. It's so hard for a defender to be patient. We all panic when the ball is lifting up, and we're all going, oh my God, swiping like there's a fly in the air. But that doesn't help us actually make the tackle. Does that make sense to you guys? Does that sort of equate? And again, we're so beguiled and distracted by this fancy skill that the attacker is using. I think as umpires, we let down in our usual better habits, where we know if there's an impending tackle coming, we should shift our focus away from the ball and shift it to that defender. And that's the only way we're going to know whether they have actually committed that obstruction or not. You've got to watch them. You got to watch where their stick goes. You got to watch if they are in good body position. And you've got to watch where the ball goes after the tackle. If it goes in their favor, in their direction, like moves away from them, and there may have been some kind of stick contact, they probably got the ball because the attacker isn't intentionally playing the ball behind them. But if there's stick contact and the ball ends up popping behind the defender or off to the side, it's more likely the defender has committed that obstruction. So let's see. Nick's got something for me here. A great example of this on Saturday, high level match, players started low, driving to the D, all safe and legal until the ball accidentally flicked up off the defender's stick, which then led to danger. Actually gave the free out to defense because you had the view of that the danger was created. Sorry, let me do this again. Initially created by the attacker, no complaint. And he said it was a fair call, so I guess I got it right. And that's okay. If you're able to sell it and that works out for you, great. I wasn't there, so I'm not going to pretend to be able to tell you either way. I think what you should acknowledge, though, is that there is the potential that even though the attacker has it in a safe position, if the defender then takes it and then plays it up dangerously and plays it higher, and that is dangerous, perhaps the defender was the character who created the danger and the foul should go against them. It's just like a ball that's hit towards the circle and it's off the ground, but it's not intentional and it's not dangerous. but it is off the ground, and then an opposing player deflects that ball in the attempt to trap it. They fail to, and the ball goes even higher to the point where it is dangerous. You don't call the initial hit. Does that make sense, Nick? I hope it does. So the Darko uniform team must be the Irish playing hurley with hockey sticks. Who knows? It could be Canadians and playing lacrosse too. There you go. Maddie, good tip to watch the defender tackle first. This is one of the core things that I train umpires in. And as someone who came through the ranks and was coached and managed by lots of different, great people, one of my frustrations was that I might be given the feedback, for example, and you may have had this experience as well, where I was told, you're missing a lot of sticks obstructions. You need to be better at that. And I'm like, cool, how? And there's not really an answer. So one of the things that I really focus on now as a as a coach, and as a person talking to you on the internet, is I want to try to give you tangible, really concrete tactics, methodology that you can employ that will help you get calls right. So this is one of, it seems very simple when you talk about it, but it's actually quite difficult to build a habit. But this is a technique that you can use that is going to be amazing for your accuracy. It simplifies the whole process so much more. Instead of like staring at this tiny little ball moving around so quickly, you actually watch a much slower object, the defender, and it's way easier to pick things out. So I'm glad that helps. There you go, Ingborg. Thank you. I appreciate that. No worries, Neil. We'll see you later. Let's see, what do you got for me? I encourage coaches to emphasize positioning defenders to force the 3D skill, either to pull it back or bring it on the ground. You might be able to block tackle, you might back tackle and pull the ball out, but the smart play is to double team and force the attacker up. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the risk reward of when you're in that tough position. That's really not when you want to be throwing in. But again, that is definitely on the coaching side. I think what we need to emphasize as umpires when we're talking to players and we're talking to coaches is that we do know that you can do this legally. It is possible. And, maybe it's for you, you're in the pub afterwards and you're talking to the coaches and they're like, yeah, we're really frustrated with these 3D skills. We don't think we can ever get the call. And you say, okay, well, what if your defenders had the stick vertically and they weren't swinging? Do you think that is a way in which they might be able to tackle? Because I think I wouldn't be able to call stick obstruction against them in that case. What do you think about that? And have that exchange of ideas and see if that resonates. Because sometimes just introducing that little idea and the fact that you're looking at from a playing perspective, even if they don't agree with you, and maybe my idea is bullshit, I don't know. Let me know. I haven't been able to play or umpire hockey for 6 months, but I think that this has legs. But if you get that feedback from the coaches, like, hey, we've been trying that in training and it doesn't work out for us. The attackers are able to change directions horizontally and just dribble right around our players just willy-nilly. It's way too easy. Okay, fair enough. From what I've seen when I watch even the top level players play, as soon as the ball goes to air, it's a lot more difficult to move laterally. I'm not saying like a lot of those players, Staffenhorst is amazing at it. I've seen a lot of guys like Brills is able to do it. If you watch self-path videos, you see those guys are, they're just up there dribbling in the air like this, back and forth. It's pretty sweet. But most players lack that ability, and they especially lack the ability to move the ball horizontally when they're moving horizontally. Those are two tough things to, and that truly makes it a three-dimensional game. It's not just about the height, it's about that the height is actually moving in all kinds of space. I'm very handsy, waving my hands. Yeah, okay. What do you got for me now, Nick? You were of two minds as the next striker. You'll also just penalize the skillful play. Yeah, and it's totally fine. And just because you might not be happy with a call that you made in hindsight doesn't mean that it wasn't, maybe it wasn't the best call you could have made, but at the same time, the attacker was, okay with it, and you are getting this feedback that even though that happened, you weren't quite happy with it. You have a chat with people, you pick it up, and you think, okay, what am I going to look for the next time? The important thing isn't whether you got it right in the moment. The important thing isn't when we look at videos whether it was correct in that moment. What's important is we look at why decisions get made, why we make decisions, so that we can apply the principles, hi Simon, to the particular fact scenario that's in front of us. That's what I try to boil down to every time. So hopefully that helps. If you're watching the defender, how do you pick up a stick block? Rachel, I love that question. Let's go with this one for a little while, because this is exactly the right way to be able to pick up a stick block. Because you're focused on the defender and their stick, and you're watching them come in. And trust me, all of a sudden, they're doing all the right things. And then, boom, they can't get the ball. There's a leg in their way, a butt in their way, a stick in their way, a teammate from the opposition in the way. We've now got body, stick, and third-party obstructions covered. You don't have to watch the stick moving in order to see the moment that it comes in and blocks. All you need to see is what does the stick or the body or the opposing player do at the moment that the tackle is being attempted. And when you're staring at the defender as opposed to the ball, you're gonna see it. Trust me on this one, Rachel. Go try it, okay? And then send me a DM and let me know what you think, because I really believe in this. And I think it's the only way that you can accurately pick up stick blocks, because otherwise, it's too fast. It's way too fast what some of these players can do. Bren, there's an improvement around the 3D needed. A few years ago when I was playing, one of the players on the opposing team did a left to right drag, followed with 3D lifting, tried to stop the bear, and knocked their stick, and you got yellow carded. Yeah, well, that's just the wrong call. That happens. If it happened on the ground, it would have been a free hit. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And when you're talking there, Bren, about how umpires tend to overreact, when we are in new situations and we're seeing new skills and something that we haven't called very much before, the tendency is for us to overreact, because we don't have the database of experience stored up in our brains where we've seen that fact situation with variations over and over and over and over again. So it's an experience issue for sure, and we're all learning together. So, Alistair, glad you're getting something out of this. Very important. Excellent. Rachel, I'm really excited. So yeah, come back to me, okay? And I hope that explanation helped with picking up stick blocks. Some players believe that 3D is any height in and around other players, says Simon. Yeah, I mean, we're messing with terms, and I don't want to get too pedantic about a term that, like, it's not in the rule book, so I don't care. It's dangerous or it's not dangerous, but we use it just to apply to, okay, when a player intentionally picks the ball up off the carpet and is, moving it in a continuous way. When it's a dink over the stick, a little lift over the stick, and then it goes back to the carpet, I don't really consider that 3D skills. That's been around for bloody ever. It's the continuous, skillful, keeping the ball up in the air. So yeah, so I hope that helps cover all that off. Let's see if I actually covered everything that I had in my notes. That would be fun. And yeah, there you go. If you have any other questions, keep posting them up, because I'm just going to right now just talk really quickly about the FHU third team, because I sent it out to the newsletter groups, and so I made a change because I realized I was kind of making life too hard on myself, and I've simplified the membership structure. So The blue card is gone. I might bring it back for something else, but green is the new blue. So green is now the patronage level. So if you appreciate all the material that's coming out, you're finding value in it, $3 US a month is all you have to do to help us keep this going. And I'm not even using it in the royal us. I actually have people who are helping me on a regular basis, and I'm going to be introducing you to them very soon. I'm just collecting up their biomaterials and getting things set. But yeah, this is growing, which is really, really great. I'm very excited about that because I've actually taken a little bit of stick. FHumpires has been around for 14 years. You may not know that, but it has been. And I used to get accusations thrown at me every so often on social media, like, you're hiding behind an icon, and, you know, who are you and who do you think you are, and that sort of thing. And I'm like, whoa, check yourself before you wreck yourself, because I am very happy to explain, and on all my bios it says for FHumpires who I am, what my qualifications are, where I've come from, and what my experience is. And if you want to read all about me, you can do so on the FHumpires website on the About page. It's a very boring read. Don't go look at it. But what I've always intended to do with this was that FHumpires would be a community. It's not about me. It's about an approach that I want to take umpire learning and education to, and I want to have other extremely smart, fun, awesome people to work with me and help develop all these materials. So FHumpires is a plural. I am an FHumpire, but there are other FHumpires, and you're going to get to know them soon. So I'm very happy about that. Anyway, so the $3 a month is for all of this. The yellow is the new green, and yellow is now the level where you get access to the clip library, but I've also bundled in what yellow used to be, which is access to a private Facebook group. And in that group, we are going to be having discussions where we can be a little more open with each other about what why we're formulating opinions and all that kind of stuff. And I can be a little more blunt. I can swear more. I'm just kidding. That's not the important thing. And talk about issues that maybe are a little bit things that I don't necessarily think belong in the public sphere. And what I'm hoping is that I'm going to be able to occasionally convince some of my friends who are the top umpires to be able to come in and engage in the discussions every so often in a context where they also have that, with that privacy. It can encourage them to understand, like, hey, you're safe, and what happens in third team yellow stays in third team yellow. Boom. So, and I lowered the price. So it's now only $17 US a month if you want to participate in all of that goodness. It is a growing enterprise. I am making adjustments and solving technical problems and learning what is going to be valuable for you as I go. But if you're interested in giving it a shot, you can go sign up for a 7-day free trial. FHU3T.com. I've got a graphic somewhere. Let's see if I can put it up on the screen. Oh, that's very helpful. Let's do that. Okay. It's in the middle of the Picasso, which might be appropriate. There you go. Just back on the topic of aerials before I move along. Bren's saying if I brought Christopher on to talk about his perspective. I mean, he's one of the experts at it for sure. But you know what? I think we may have touched on this topic when Thomas Briel was on Umpire at Home, Bren. So go have a look at that. He definitely talked about the discrepancy between certain kind of stick obstruction fouls and how umpires react to that. And that was a really fascinating insight for me to get from him, that it seemed like attackers have to ride tackles and tackles and tackles in order to get into the circle. But if a defender has recovered the ball within the circle and they're dribbling out the slightest contact, and boom, that gets called. I found that really interesting because he's not wrong. He's a smart guy. Okay, let's move on to the second topic. And There we go. Okay, I've got it. Hey, iPad. Okay, Graham. Graham does a lot of coaching of umpires like I do. And he says one of the areas that they find hardest to deal with is the crowding by players. And he finds that the timid ones tend to get walked on and the aggressive ones bring on aggression. Neither way is good. And I say, wow, that's a doozy. That's me with my clean language. So let's talk about dealing with crowding and confrontations. If you have any experiences that you want to share with us in the comments, put them in there because I want to hear about it. Because that's it's good to hear. I think all of us have had, oh yeah, I should go back to that because I think I have a, so this is only one photo of one of the many situations in which I dealt with confrontation myself on the pitch. This is actually the Mexican men's team playing at Cal Cup, and I was lucky enough to do that match. And that particular defender was my best friend, so that all worked out very well. We all have to deal with confrontation on a regular basis from players. And it's one of those intangible soft skills that we don't do a good job of, generally speaking, developing in our umpires from a coaching perspective. So I feel your pain, Graham, and I know it's difficult. And one of the things I find really interesting about when I look at the top umpires and how they deal with confrontation and when it's done well and when it isn't, the first thing that I notice about the ones that tend to handle things a little bit better are umpires who are in professions, and I'm grossly overgeneralizing, so please don't get offended if your profession, which is very good at dealing with confrontation, is left off this list of two. But lawyers seem to be quite good at dealing with confrontation, but they tend to be on the side that Graham pointed out, the ones who are aggressive and tend to be able to, and really engage in those situations. And then there's the teachers, and teachers seem to do a very good job at smoothing over and diffusing those confrontational situations. And I think it's because in both those professions on a regular basis, you are experiencing that nature of conflict and you're having to manage it. With lawyers, it's not generally that people are yelling at you that you're wrong, but you have people telling you that you're wrong all the time. There's a constant exchange of ideas, and you're wrong and I'm right and this is why. And it's just ingrained in the orientation of the profession. With teachers, they have to convince the people that they're teaching that they have authority, and that it's more productive for the people being taught to subject themselves to that and to submit to that, rather than to be constantly like, no, why, and causing that conflict. And they have to diffuse, because they have to work within a framework of safety and law and all this kind of stuff. So when I look at the examples that I've often pulled out of what I like and when I think an umpire struggles a little bit more, that comes into play. And it's not because those professions are magical, it's that it's experience. So when we talk about timid umpires or we talk about aggressive umpires, everything that we do in our lives, we bring in and onto the pitch. And that informs the manner in which we handle these situations. So for me, I'm a lawyer, legal past. I've also tended to be a fairly aggressive human being. I often joke with people that I don't have a fight or flight response, I have a fight or fight response. And so my challenge has often been to calm that down and not to exacerbate the situation and throw gas on that fire. And then to learn how to coach the ones who appear to be timid, but I don't believe that's timidity. I believe it's a lack of experience. in dealing with those confrontational situations. So what do you do when somebody doesn't have experience? And let's see what I wrote down in here. Well, maybe I'll go through a few examples and I'll point out the things, and maybe you guys will see the same things. And we can talk about the things that we think go well in these clips and the things that maybe don't go quite as well. So just a couple comments here that I'll bring up. Rachel saying teachers deal with kids. Frustration brings out the big kid in players. They get it. Yeah, it is very much that same situation, right? And let's see. And asking umpires to explain decisions. Yeah. We're all okay with that, aren't we? And we should be. If you're the kind of umpire who doesn't like to be questioned, you're in the wrong bloody business. Step off, because you have to be open to discussion. You have to be open to being examined and evaluated and critiqued. But you are entitled to set boundaries as to how that critique can occur, when it can occur, and in what tone of voice it can occur. All right. Nick, you're my twin from another country. You're too harsh and the loyalty end of the scale. Don't stand for nonsense, but at 6'4", you don't get much back. That's a good point, because that happens. One of those factors about handling these situations really does come. People talk about their physicality. Oh, I'm really tall, I'm really big. People don't mess with you. And when you're smaller, you think, well, people are going to mess with me more. I'm 5'4", and nobody else with me, period. Because I've learned how to carry myself. I've earned some kind of respect. I've learned skills, how to project my authority, my confidence, and learned how to diffuse those situations. So let's look at a couple clips first, and then we'll talk about some real life ways, again, concrete, tangible skills that you can use to develop your ability to handle confrontations. Paul, you're saying that you've heard an umpire say recently, one player, one question, get on with the game. Very reasonable. And what's very good about that is that it's a very clear standard. And whether that is your standard or not, it's specific, it's directive, and it allows for exactly what that umpire is okay with in their boundaries. So I love it. Lim, good to see you. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. I don't know, I've had players say some really mean things to me in a lovely tone of voice. I don't quite like that, but anyway, okay, let's look at a couple now. I've got the audio turned on this because I want you to hear what the umpires say, or perhaps do not say, and what the commentators are relating about this. So let's go with this one.
Once again, they're lining up, looking for a go. It will be a penalty corner off the knee of the Malaysian player.
Go.
And a green card.
3 players here, you go.
Well, umpire Tim Bond exerting his authority. The players, the teams are really clearly told that only one player can approach the umpire at any one time. That's the disciplinary rules. So if he's decided that 3 players have come at him at once, he's picked one of them to be binned.
Okay, so I hope you guys could hear all of that. And if you couldn't, I'll just relay it as it goes. But when I replay this situation back, the umpire in question here, what I really like about what he does here is that right at the beginning, he sees that a crowd is developing, and it's the first thing he deals with. Now, the FH umpires have been briefed, and it is in the FH umpire briefing, which I should go to right away here, and let me show you. So the FH looks at this at the top level as it's part of the presentation of the brand, and that only one player, and this part of the briefing is given to all the international teams who compete in tournaments. So this is not hidden information, and the teams are aware that this is the standard. One player may approach an umpire. The umpires have been instructed to award a green card for this type of action. Okay, very clear. There's just no ambiguity about it at that level. So going back to the video that we were just looking at, so the best thing that this umpire does is he's stopping time for the referral, and as soon as he doesn't like the crowd that's developing, he deals with it, and he gives the green card as he's instructed. So that's perfect. The one thing that I would point out that I think that this particular umpire could work on doing a little bit better is calming down his own body language. And I can say this because this is exactly the mistake that I make on a regular basis, is when you are a person, an umpire, a human being who tends to express themselves a little bit aggressively, this is how it's going to come across. You are unimpressed that this malarkey is going on and you are not going to stand for it. Boom, 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 boom. And you start getting more animated, and that energy just blasts out into the players, and they tend to reflect it back at you with interest. So the real challenge for you is to be able to just stop and calm down and move more slowly. Here's another example where, and I'll let the audio play a little bit as well.
Bustling through. Oh, I tell you what, it's like 10-pin bowling out there, isn't it? Heads down. Now, the Scots may seek a referral here. Let's have a listen.
From your defender. Do you want to refer it? You refer it. I'm asking, just asking. You've got to go. Go. I can take one and one only.
That's what happens. He said one player to talk to me.
Check.
Alan Forsyth was okay. William Marshall came in and tried to have a chirp as well. And
okay, so I hope you could hear all that exchange. Let me know if the volume levels aren't working out as well. But this is a little bit of a different take, and kind of if you had taken the great half of what Tim Bond did in the first video and the great half of what Paul Walker did in this video, you'd have perfection. The thing that I think Paul could improve on in this situation is to not engage in the discussion immediately. And the briefing is clear, is that the first thing that you have to deal with is the crowding, and then you can have a discussion. But if you engage, you're going to tend to engage not with just the one person, but the second person and the third person, and you're almost like entrapping them. You're drawing them into that situation. Deal with the surrounding first, set the stage, the tableau in which you accept the conversation to occur, so that you can, because the whole point is, it's not that we're being jerks and we just don't like lots of people around us. It's that it interferes with our ability to get to the right decision and to communicate effectively with the player who has the best information for us. So in order to make that happen, we can only have one person talking to us. It's an emotionally charged situation for everybody. And in order to get that information, we only want one person. And that way, that person, that player, whether it's a captain or just another leader on the pitch, the person who has the best English, whatever the case might be, then you're able to take in what their complaint is, and they are the representative of the team, and they better be the right person to have the information. And it's tricky when the first person who starts talking to you maybe doesn't know what they're talking about, and they need to get help from teammates. And that is when you express a little bit of empathy, especially if it's a language barrier. But if you don't have to worry about that, it might be that the first person who comes talks to you is like, yeah, but it was and they don't have the skills, they don't have the emotional skills to compose themselves before they start talking to you. And be a little aware of that as that goes. But once that first initial conversation is had, Paul, okay, no, I'm gonna make sure to restop. I'm gonna pull myself away the situation and pull the one player who started talking to me first and is the correct player, and reminds everybody, one person only. He pulls that away, he starts that conversation, and then the player, another of the Scottish Captain Forsyth's teammates, comes in, horns in on the situation when it was absolutely not needed. And I mean, he laughs with derision when Paul shows the card, which is completely unfair. The briefing is clear. You got to stay out of that situation. And Paul set the stage. He expressed the standard, and then it was violated. But after that point, he really did a good job of keeping a composed body language. He was calm. So he goes in, he invites, and he engages, stops time, but he's nice and calm. Watch how slow he's working. And he's like, one person, okay, let's talk. And then he tries to say, go off. Oh, you're not leaving. Here comes the card. But he's still very calm. Okay, so this is what you want to pull out of this. If you can do that first with the players, and then you can have a nice conversation with the player in question, the one in authority afterwards, you've got it nailed. The last one that I want to show you is a bit more of a
Should the situation arise.
I'm going to mute it because there isn't really anything valuable for us in the audio. And let's be clear, this was a very high pressure situation for everybody. And that is a lot of crowd coming towards him. So this isn't as much of a critique, but what I want to outline and what I want to draw your attention to is where the umpire was at the moment that he made his decision. And he needed to be in close in order to see exactly what was happening, because there was potential obstruction from the goalkeeper and all that kind of thing. I'll just show the moment of the decision again. So he needed to be there to see, but as a result, he was really close to the action. He was really close to where all the players were. So in that situation, he backs away, and he's at the same time one person, but he's keeping everybody in his vision. That can be a real double-edged sword, okay, for any umpire, because when you retreat like that backwards, it can look like you're being run out of the room. It can look like you're being chased. So it's delicate, but you don't necessarily want to stand there and in the middle of everything and let everybody surround you, because you're going to really struggle to dig yourself out of that as the momentum builds. So now that we've sort of talked about a few of the things that you've got there, how do you get better at dealing with the confrontations? I definitely got better at dealing with confrontations as time went on. So you are going to learn all the way throughout your career. And if you're just starting out, hey, there's lots of options. If you're coming to the close of your career like I am, then you can still learn, you can still improve. Part of it is that if you haven't had a lot of experience in these situations, you can, and I have been at FIH tournaments where in our umpires briefing and pre-tournament preparation, when we were on site together, we would have meetings where we would actually go through scenarios that we thought, okay, this might happen in a game. We might have a crowding situation. Let's rehearse how we're going to handle it. We role played. And I know it sounds dumb and cringy, but role playing these situations can really, really help. And if you're into CBT or a lot of, there's a lot of psychological fields that are now advocating this sort of put yourself in that situation, just try to practice it. And it's a more tangible way than just visualizing the situation. So that can be a way to develop the skill. When you're in smaller matches, when you're in the matches that, oh, I've been doing this level forever, and oh, I know this team very well, and oh, this is going to be a cakewalk, those are great times to practice as well. And it's about practicing your habit. How am I going to handle the tougher calls? Even when it's not a tough call, how do I lead into it? How do I show a calm body language every time? How do I gear my awareness so that I know which player is the one who I'd like to come talk to me, who is the nearest person, who isn't entitled to talk to me, so that you know how you're going to react and you can prepare yourself and you habitually go through those preparation steps, even if you're in a game where nobody gives you any crap whatsoever. Okay, it's about preparing an awareness so that when it does happen, you can react a bit more automatically. Okay, obviously, like we've done here today, watching video is a great preparatory tool. looking at, okay, what works? What maybe could be improved on? What worked in that situation? But what if it's a different situation? How would I handle that a little bit differently? And going through that, having conversations with people who are close to you, who can help you build your awareness of what your pattern is. If you're sitting there going, I don't know, do I get defensive? Do I get angry when I get attacked? Talk to your parents, talk to your significant others, talk to your best friends, because they've seen you at your worst moments. They've seen you at your most emotional, and they'll tell you how you react. And you might be able to build your awareness about what your reflexive actions are in those cases. And just being aware of that can really, really help. Preparing for these moments in your pre-match chat. So I like to go through this, even if I only have maybe 5 or 10 minutes to talk to my colleague. I like to go through this pathway, and we've picked our sides. We've talked about, you know, how we're going to handle dangerous falls. We've talked about how to communicate when we're playing an advantage and somebody's going to come back for a card, and we've done all this. And then I'll say, okay, so if I get surrounded in the game, how are we going to deal with it as a team? There's 2 of you there. And one of the mistakes that many of us make, and I can't remember who I was talking to recently about this. I think it was Prince of Wales, Crispy, about a situation he had in an indoor match where we talked about some alternatives to handling a aggressive confrontational situation. And one of the things you can do, and agree with this with your colleague, maybe the 2 of you want to do something different, but one of the things I like to say is, hey, if I get surrounded or crowded, I want you to stay out of it. Not because I don't want saving, but I want my colleague to have a broad vision of what's happening so that they can come to me once everything's calmed down, and they can tell me who the hell I'm going to be giving the cards to. Because I know that when I'm in the middle of that situation, my emotions go foomp like this, my vision narrows, crimson mask, I don't know what's happening, I just want to lash out at somebody in self-defense. So I need a cool, calm, detached colleague to be able to take me through the proper remedies afterwards. So that's something really important. If the both of you wade in there, both of you are going to be emotional. You're going to be trying to pull people apart, and like, you get away and you get away and you go over there, and suddenly you don't know which way is up and who started it. And if you're needing to meet out cards after that, you're going to be lost. And that's a struggle. That can definitely be a struggle to go through. All right. So you've talked about this in your pre-match chat. You've talked about what you're going to do when I'm in a confrontation. I'm going to do this. What are you going to do, colleague? You've got all this planned out. Let's talk about what we should do actually in the games. I've had conversations with umpires about what to talk to captains about at the coin toss. And some people start saying, oh, well, we want to talk about 5 meters and how we want a big 5 meters and don't play anything dangerously, and, you know, keep your hands off the players and blah, blah, blah. And then they go into a rules recitation. I don't care about that. The only thing that I will ever talk to captains about prior to a game at any level, and I'm talking about kids because I'm trying to educate them, all the way up to the most senior advanced levels, international games, is a reminder, hey, I want to hear from you too when something goes amiss. You are my conduits. If you're not on the pitch, I'll trust that you've got somebody who knows that they are the second chair, the next one in command. But I want you and you only to come to talk to me. And I want to have that conversation. Okay. But it's got to be you and only you. And being able to get that in the captain's minds before you go out on the pitch is an excellent Murphy's Law. You've talked about it, and now you're never going to have to deal with it, sort of thing. So that would be my advice. It also emblazons it in your head. You've had this conversation with these 2 people, and you're like, I'm going to be looking for you. If I make a call that I'm thinking, ooh, I need to maybe have a consultation, or maybe I need to hear from a player as to what their feedback is, I'm going to be looking for you. And it's in your head as well. And you'll know if some random crowd of people start running up to you, you're like, whoa, 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 this isn't what we talked about. I didn't agree to this. This isn't what I announced. All right, so priming yourself for the right reaction and priming them for the right reaction is, I think, a very effective tool. Step by step as you're going through, you're making a big call. It's almost always going to be a corner, a stroke, goal. Okay, because those are stop play situations. Not stop time, but like it's a dead ball situation, and that's when players have the liberty, and they also tend to be close to you, and that's when they'll come and run out to you and want to have a conversation in the multitudes. One of the techniques that you can use, first of all, we've talked about calm body language, is hold yourself still when you make the signal. Now remember how I showed you Amba's situation where he was right in the middle of stuff and he needed to back away? But if you can avoid that, if you're in a good spot, you want to hold still. Hold your signal and show how confident you are. That split second of body language is going to do more to dictate what comes next than anything else you can do. One thing you can do to avoid players getting very close to you, especially when you're showing penalty corners, is to hold your arms out. And that's exactly what I was doing in that photo when that player came running up to me. Let me bring that up again for you guys, is that I've got my arms out, because if he comes any closer and he touches me, there's going to be a problem. So I'm making sure that I've got my physical space at which I know I'm safe, and we can have a more productive, calm conversation. So that's something that you might want to add into your repertoire. Like I said before, you might want to go back, you might want to step away or step into a different area if you are in a mix, but make sure you understand who the most proximate player is who's engaging with you. Okay, don't lose track of that. Otherwise, it's going to be really hard to give a green card to somebody for coming and crowding you afterwards. Like I said before, don't engage in the dispute first. And the lawyers are going to do this is as soon as they get told, but it hit that guy's that guy's foot first, you're going to say, no, it didn't. I saw it. I was here. This happened. This happened. This happened. You're going to want to correct them automatically. Chill. That's not the important thing right now. You want to set your stage. You want to get your lights in place. You want to get the props in place. You want to make sure everybody's in position, and then you can have your discussion. And as soon as you take the time to make those steps, that gives you an opportunity to take a breath, and then you're composed and you can handle it. Okay, so that is really important. And then the last thing is that once you've given yourself that opportunity to take things down, is take your time. And that's the thing that you can rehearse. You can visualize it in your brain, you can rehearse it physically with somebody, is that when they say something to you, 1, 2, here is my response. And you practice pausing, not interrupting the person who's the player, the captain who's talking to you, taking the time to listen to them. And if you're talking over each other, that is naturally something that people are going to react to. I've had situations where I've made a decision, I can tell it's going to be contentious, and the proper person is close to me, and I'll say, hey, you, I need to hear from you. Come talk to me. I'll invite them to come talk to me. It's amazing what that does. All of a sudden they're like, oh, I'm going to be listened to. I'm going to be heard. I don't have to shout at them. I don't have to tell them that they're blind. I just have to give them the information from my point of view. And I'll be like, I'll listen to what they have to say. And if I'm still very convinced, if I don't need a consultation or anything like that, I'll say, I hear what you're saying. What I saw from my perspective was this, but I've heard you, let's keep doing it like this. I'm going to stick with the penalty corner. From my angle, that's the call that I need to see, that I need to stick with, because that's the way I saw it. Just giving them an audience and a valid, I have heard you. You really express that you appreciate the significance of that conversation, and you've taken it all in. Makes such a difference. Such a difference. Okay. And especially if they come to you and they say something, you say, okay, look, I saw it a different way, but tell you what, I'm going to go check with my colleague, or just give me a second. I've got my colleague on the radio. Okay. All right. And then you have that exchange. If you've stopped time and you're talking to your captain anyway, just get together physically and have a chat about it anyway. Like, why not? It shows, it demonstrates to everybody on the pitch. If you're doing this one, like, great, you're Secret Service, but if you get together physically with them on the pitch, it really does show that cooperation and that you're taking in some information that you didn't have before. Very important. Okay, let's go to some comments on this. Okay, so Martin's advice in this situation is that you can cut the player short and say there must be a misunderstanding. It's decision, not a discussion. That's okay. And there might be some situations where you've had repeated conversations like this that really have been unnecessary. And I'll say to players, I'll say, look, I want you to come to me when there's doubt, but this is a clear decision. You're taking the mic. We're done. Okay. I'm getting bored of this. When it's serious, I do want to hear from you. And if you make that distinction, then that can really help in getting that. Lim's telling us to put our heads in the freezer. I'll try that next time, Lim. I don't know what it'll do to my makeup though, and my hair. Nick probably talking about Amba's situation there. It was a great move, literally, no pun intended. He initiated it, instant diffuser, otherwise he would have been surrounded. Yeah, there you go. And remember that a lot of players, Alistair is saying, have never even read the rules, and all their knowledge comes from around the bar and starts with, did you know? Right. So yeah, having that empathy for knowing what the level of knowledge is in the players that you're dealing with can, really help. Simon talking about visualization being a really great technique. Watch yourself handling the confrontational situation. And, for me, I think it really, if you're good at visualization, some people are very skilled at it. I'm actually kind of terrible at it. I need more. So, okay, this is going to be a little bit of a secret, but I talk to myself. I will practice in front of a mirror, or I'll be like in the shower and I will have an argument with myself. I will imagine somebody is arguing with me about a call or some other difficult situation I'm handling. We'll just keep that one to myself. And I will practice how I'm going to handle it. And I'll do it wrong and go, no, I don't like that. Let's try it again. And, oh, that was a little long-winded. I'm going to clip that down. I'm just saying that there's ways that you can make the experience more salient to your neural processes that actually invoke those pathways so that you will be more capable of accessing those pathways when you're in that emotionally charged situation. That's all I'm saying. The more real you can make it, and that's why the rehearsal, the staging, the role playing really is powerful, as awkward as it is to do. Maddie's talking about the coin toss. Less is more. Be friendly and build rapport more than anything. Absolutely. Like, if they don't know the rules, you're not going to teach them at the coin toss. So don't even bother. But setting out what you want to see from the captains, from the two people in front of you, I think really can help out there. Rachel, I'm so doing this captain authority this weekend. Use the captain for, but not set that out of the toss. Yeah. Establish that relationship, that rapport. Learn their name. Say, hey, if you haven't met them before, hey, what's your name? All right, Rachel, great to meet you. Get the other captain's name. I'm Keely. If you haven't met me before, I'm going to be one of your umpires today. My other umpire is this person. And, hey, let's work together in this game because I know that you can help me in giving me information when I need it. And I know that you can help me by controlling your team so that we can get to the best decisions all throughout this game. And it's going to be a much better game for everybody. So Marvo, you're asking, when you don't have video referral, if a player disputes or makes a claim, is it advisable to stop and say to your colleague on the radio? Joe is asking for foot. Did you see that? Or should you stick with your decision? This is a really interesting one. This is something that I think the umpires at the top level with the video referral had to learn how to do, was to be more open to be hearing the feedback. Hey, we want to basically have your decision reviewed. Like, we think you're wrong. And to not be like, no, I'm right, get away, which is what our usual reaction is in these situations. So instead, I think it's good for us to say, hey, look, I will double check. If there's any doubt in your mind, you should also have that as part of your pre-match chat with your colleague. It's like, look, if I totally F up a call, would you get on the horn? Like, don't let me sit with it. If it's important, if it's minor, like, well, whatever. If it's in between the 223s, who the hell cares? It's not important. But if it's inside that 23, if it's especially inside the circle, I'll say to my colleague, don't let me sit with the wrong call. If you have something that you want to offer, what body language are you going to show me if we don't have radios? And if we have radios, what are you going to say to me on the radio? Hey, Keely, let's have a chat. Hey, my colleague's got something for me. I'm just going to go talk to them. Have the conversation. Why not? Right? But for the big calls, not for every little foot obstruction, whatever. Okay. Yeah, you don't need to stop, but you can use the radio to keep it quicker, says Stephen. You're absolutely right. This is but there's a balance there, right? So if you have a dead ball situation, you don't necessarily have to stop time, but sometimes I like that because it slows you down. If you're stopping time, you're not taking anything away from the players, but you're removing that pressure from yourself that you're thinking, all right, well, now I got to get the ball set up and blah, 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 blah. And you're thinking all those things habitually while you're still trying to deal with the situation that you've just called. So remove that pressure from yourself so that you can then reset and be calmer and then deal with that and move on with the game, if that makes sense. Yeah, Ingborg reinforcing that it's not for every decision, for the big ones, for the ones that matter. Okay, and I hope that all makes some sense for you guys. It's already been an hour, 12 minutes. Damn it! I'm gonna have to edit this to go onto Instagram. So I hope those are all useful strategies for you. And if you have any more ideas of ways that you would handle confrontations and crowding, or you have other scenarios that you want to run by the collective, if you want to talk more about 3D dribbling and tackling, like, get in the comments and we can continue the conversation. You can always DM me, you can text me. If you have anything that you want me to talk about on the next What Up Wednesday, then do the same thing. Get in the comments, send me a DM, text me, bat signal. I'm here for you. And I absolutely love getting all these questions. I think every time somebody emails me, I'm like, ooh, that's a good one. I say that a lot because they are really great questions. And especially when I'm a little bit removed from the game because I'm not actually playing and umpiring myself, it's really nice to be like, yeah, that's a thing. And ooh, let's deal with that. So thank you very much for all your input and the conversation today. It was really constructive. Thank you, Simon. Appreciate it. Stephen, great to see you as always. And thanks for your notes on that. I know you've got a lot of experience in a lot of these high pressure situations as well. So it was good to see you. Gary, thank you so much. Good to see you as well. And my new best friend, Maddie, good to see you as well. I'm glad that I was able to get to your 3D question. So bring it on. And I will see you back here for another What Up Wednesday next week. Have an awesome remainder of your week and a great hockey weekend. Bye for now, guys. You're welcome, Graham. Ciao.